Morning everybody. It's Tuesday 31st of March 2026. I'm going to say it's a bit after 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see here. It's quite thick fog as you can possibly see. I'm 8 k's into my run and I've only just started filming because it was dark and there's nothing to see, and I thought even with when there's a bit of light wouldn't be much to see with the fog. Anyway, so here we are, we're filming, well I'm filming, nobody else, just me, and I'll get on with whatever it is that we're going to get on with. About this time last year, that is March 2025, about 3 or 4 rounds into the National Rugby League competition, I made a video where I was talking about Michael Maguire. Now I don't know Michael Maguire, I've never met him, I have no particular interest in him or any of the other people I'm going to talk about in this video. It's just my thoughts on their situations. I'm not here to defend them or criticise them. But so, Michael Maguire is the coach of the Brisbane Broncos. He's been appointed to that position around the end of 2024 when the club had decided the previous coach, Kevin Walters, wasn't the man to take them to the next step, which was to win the grand final. Walters had taken the team to the grand final, but had lost. And the club management had decided that he wasn't the guy to bring in the silverware they expect. So he was sacked, or his contract not renewed, and Michael Maguire was approached for the job. And Maguire had been coach of South Sydney when they won their first premiership in a very long time in 2014. He'd then gone to the West Tigers. I think I'm right in saying that. Didn't last very long for whatever reasons. I think he'd been an assistant coach, or maybe the coach in New Zealand, of the New Zealand national team, that is not. And then had coached the New South Wales State of Origin team for the first win in a good few years. So he knew what his job was, to win the premiership. So he's there, now 3 games into the season, and the team aren't winning, and so the usual noise that start about, oh, he can't coach, he should be sacked, so on and so forth. And these go on for a while and get louder and louder, and then the team starts winning and Maguire takes them not only to the grand final, but he wins the grand final. So proved all his critics wrong, and you thought, well, he should be pretty safe now. End of the 2025 season, they play this thing called the World Club Challenge. The Australian team goes to the winning of the Australian competition, that is the Broncos. They go to the UK and they play the team that's ahead of the UK Super League, or winning it or something or other, which this year turned out to be Hull Kingston Rovers that a few seasons ago were a basket case. The Broncos get beaten, so that's not a good omen, say all the critics. 2026 season starts, they lose a couple of games and the noises all start again. Then they beat Melbourne for the first time in 10 years in Melbourne or something or other, and have another win after that. So there, Maguire again is relatively safe for the moment. Everyone agrees that he's a very intense bloke, and his training methods hard, and his expectations are quite high. Those, of course, are the reasons why he was hired in the first place. He knew he had one job to do, that was win the competition, which he did. So anyway, he's one bloke who all the experts and pundits and so on are talking about us won't last the season. In the off season, Des Hasler had his contract terminated at the Gold Coast Titans, and whoever the bloke was at Newcastle, he also had his contract terminated. So we've got at least 2 new coaches taking on their first full-time job in the case of the Titans, and I think the bloke at Newcastle had been elsewhere, but now he's a head coach. So sacking season, like whacking season in an episode of The Simpsons, seems to be, if not upon us, probably not too far around the corner. Anthony Seibold, the coach of the Sea Eagles, the Manly Sea Eagles, 3 games into the season, all of which Manly have lost, he's been sacked, and in his place they've appointed to the end of the season one of Manly's favourite sons of the moment, that is Kieran Foran, who has no experience as a head coach, plenty of playing experience, having played for Manly, Parramatta, I think the Titans, and also represented New Zealand. Now I don't know whether he's any good or not. It's not about him so much as the behaviour of the people who appoint these coaches in the first place. But it is worth noting in the case of Manly, as I said, Foran is a favourite son at the moment. Des Hasler was a favourite son. He won 2 premierships. They sacked him twice. Jeff Tuvey, their favourite son. I can't say that he won a premiership. He certainly made the finals, playoffs, whatever we're calling them these days, in his coaching career. Also sacked. There have been a string of coaches and CEOs through the club, and it is alleged that somebody, I can't remember who, said the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. Now in the case of Michael Maguire, to get back to him for a moment, without trying to defend him, because as I said, I don't know the bloke from a bar of soap, I tried to make the case saying, listen, the guy hasn't been in the job 6 months. Give him some time, for goodness sake. He inherits the squad of players that was put together by the previous coach, some of whom may or may not suit Maguire's style of play, some of whom may or may not like Maguire, they may or may not like decisions that he's made about them, where they'll play, how many minutes they'll play, or about their mate that they think is the next best player to themselves but is not getting any time on the field. Give him some time. Usually when someone takes up a new coaching position, they sign a contract for 3 years, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, but 3 years seems to be about the average. So you would think maybe a year, 18 months into your contract, you'd start looking at it and saying, well, you've now been here for long enough, put your stamp on things. There are players here that you don't think could do the job or the way you want them to do it. You've had the opportunity to either coach them to do what you want, or move them on, or do whatever is necessary. So, coming back to Seibold, he was in his third year of his contract, but he's just been offered a 2-year extension on his contract. So, in the off-season, after they do their annual review of the season, team's performance, coach performances, everybody's performance reviews, they decide, well, you're okay, mate, we'll give you another 2 years. 3 games into a new season, they decide, well, no, you're not okay, and not only will we not honour the 2 years extension, you can leave now, and we'll pay you to go away and be quiet. Now, Seibold had been there long enough to put his stamp on the club, been there long enough to either coach the players to do things his way, or to get rid of the players that couldn't or wouldn't do what he wanted. It was the absolute debacle of the management of the club deciding not to renew Daly and Cherry Evans' contract, or offer him the extension that he wanted. I don't know how much involvement Seibold as a coach has in that, but if he says I want him, give him whatever he wants, or they don't consult him, I don't know how that all works. But Cherry Evans expected to be offered a certain amount of money. You're right. G'day. Hey doggies. To play out what will be the last 2 years of his career and be a one-club man, set a record for the most number of games played by any Manly player and so on. And the club made him an offer that he felt wasn't good enough. Now, as it all comes down to it, these guys are professionals. They play for money. And whilst it may be said that Cherry Evans was trying to top up the superannuation or the retirement fund or whatever, surely after the service he'd given that club, he was entitled to a good offer. Anyhow, he didn't get an offer and he left. And I suspect that didn't sit well with some fans, but the problem was not just in him leaving, it's that they didn't have a replacement plan. They don't have a player with the same game management skills, as the coaches like to refer to them these days, as Cherry Evans had, and that's in part why they're not winning games. As I said, Seibold had won 49% of the games that he'd coached while he'd been at Manly, which means he'd lost more than he'd won. So he'd lost 51% of them. And so maybe that idea of continuing to do what you do, expecting something different, has some credence. He perhaps could not get the players to do what he wanted to do the way he wanted it to be done. Ultimately, as a coach, your job is to convince players that the way you do things is the right way and the way they have to do things. And so, whatever the last guy told them, forget all about that, because I'm here now and we're doing it my way. And the players have to accept that and buy into it and want to play for you as the coach and play your way. Every coach has a use-by date, and the smart ones are able to leave on their own terms when they work out, I've done all I can do here. I've said all I can say. The players have stopped listening to me, and it's time for me to move on before I'm sacked. Whether Seibold deserved to be sacked or not, I don't know. I suppose that the proof or otherwise of that will be, well, how does Foreign go if they do better this year than they did last year under Seibold? And of course, all of the fans who were chanting Seibold out, Seibold out, Seibold out will be proven correct. And it'll turn out to be a smart decision. There is a bigger picture here. You think about a few other circumstances. Tottenham Hotspur in the English Premier League are now on their 4th manager this year. The manager there is like the coach. They're on their 4th one in one season. They dispense with Ange Postecoglou services, and now they've burned through 3 more coaches. And there's still some games to go in the season. Nottingham Forest, where Ange Postecoglou went after winning a trophy for Tottenham, the first one in 17 years. He lasted 39 days or something. I think the second shortest reign of any manager in Premier League history, or even the old First Division. And Nottingham Forest, they're also on their 4th manager. And I'm sure there are lots of other stories around about coaches and managers who've been shown the door after a very short period of time. And so what's the point here? Well, as I said in the case of Michael Maguire, when the new coach is appointed, there's already a team in place. Contracts have been signed, players are in place, wages are being paid, all that sort of stuff. The coach has a team with a bunch of players, some of whom he may not want, some of whom may not want to be there now that there's a new guy. So there's got to be a certain period of time where the coach is given some leeway to think, well, I just got here, I just got my feet under the desk, I've worked out where everything is, I know all the players' names and so on. And I need some time to mould this squad to do things the way I want them done. Now, how long is that time? I don't know. Because football, professional coaching at any level, but it's football or anything else, and certainly in football, is a results-driven business. The more games you win, the more likely you are to keep your job. The more trophies you put in the cabinet case, the more likely you are to keep your job. And it might be, as in the case of Maguire last year, that the first few games you don't win. All the training under the sun, all the drills that you do on the training paddock, they're no substitute for actually playing the game. They're no substitute we're actually seeing your coach's game plan in action. How does he want me to play when I'm out there on the field? How are the opposition going to respond to his tactics and so forth? And at some point, perhaps the people who continue to unveil these new coaches with great fanfare in front of the assembled media and promise that there's a new era coming and that winning's just around the corner and the trophies are going to accumulate. Perhaps once in a while some of those people at board level or management level ought to take a good hard look at themselves and say, well, we made a bad decision. The bloke we appointed turns out to be the wrong guy. The bloke that we promised the fans and supporters would bring us the glory days we've craved, he wasn't up to the job, and we are the people responsible for that because we chose him and we made those promises to the fans and to the media and so on. And maybe they've got to take some responsibility and at least put their hand up and say, oh, you know, we made the decision, we accept responsibility for the decision, we accepted it. What we promised would happen in terms of glory and winning and so forth didn't happen, and the responsibility is ours. And maybe a few of them should fall on their swords. Now, as for what happens to Anthony Seibold, he's been sacked now from the Broncos, sacked now from the Sea Eagles. As his option is to go to England, where rugby league isn't quite as big a sport, maybe expectations aren't quite as high. I don't know whether that's what he wants to do. He's got a family and wife and children who may not want to go to England. He will take some time, presumably, and think about his future. But I can't see him being offered another head coach's job in the National Rugby League. And some of that has to be his responsibility. I mean, if somebody comes to you and offers you a job like coach of the Broncos or coach of the Sea Eagles, big clubs with high expectations, perhaps your ego gets the better of you and you too, I'm not sure what the word is, but you know, you